The Method of Zen by Eugen Herrigel. Introductory. The Way to Zen Buddhism. Soon after I arrived in Japan, a meeting took place with some Japanese colleagues in Tokyo. We were having tea together in a restaurant on the 5th floor of a hotel. Suddenly a low rumbling was heard, and we felt a gentle heaving under our feet. The swaying and creaking and the crash of objects became more and more pronounced. Alarm and excitement mounted. The numerous guests, Europeans mostly, rushed out into the corridor, to the stairs and elevators. An earthquake, and a terrible earthquake a few years before, was still fresh in everyone's memory. I too had jumped up in order to get out into the open. I walked to tell the other colleagues with whom I had been talking to hurry up, when I noticed to my astonishment that he was sitting there unmoved, hands folded, eyes nearly closed, as though none of it were of concern to him. Not like someone who hangs back irresolutely, or who has not made up his mind, but like someone who, without a fuss, was doing something, or not doing something, perfectly naturally. The sight of him was so astounding and had such a sobering effect that I remained standing behind him and then sat down and stared at him fixedly, without even asking myself what it could mean and whether it was advisable to remain. I was spellbound. I didn't know by what, as though nothing could happen to me. When the earthquake was over, it was said to have lasted a fairly long time, he continued the conversation at the exact point where he had broken off, without wasting a single word on what had happened. For my part, I was quite unable to pay attention, and probably gave stupid answers. With the terror still chilling my limbs, I asked myself rather, what prevented me from running away? Why did I not follow an instinctive impulse? I found no satisfactory answer. A few days later, I learned that this Japanese colleague was a Zen Buddhist, and I gathered that he must have put himself into a state of extreme concentration and thus become unassailable. Although I had read about Zen before and heard a few things about it, I had only the vaguest idea of the subject. The hope of penetrating into Zen, which had made my decision to go to Japan very much easier, changed, as a result of this dramatic experience, into the intention to start without further delay. I was more concerned with the mysticism of Zen, with the way that led beyond the unassailability. It was not my colleague's imperturbable behavior, impressive as it was, that hovered before me as a goal, for there are other methods of attaining this without having to go to Japan. In the meantime, I was informed that it was not so easy to penetrate more deeply into Zen because Zen had no theory and no dogma. I was advised to turn to one of the arts which were most strongly influenced by Zen, and thus to make contact with it by a slow and roundabout route. This advice I followed. In my book, Zen in the Art of Archery, I have given an account of this course of instruction.